The wind moved across the empty desert, carrying dust like smoke. A lone woman walked slowly, her steps weak, her clothes torn from long travel. Her face showed hunger and tiredness, but her eyes still carried hope. She looked around the land and saw nothing but dry soil, broken fences, and silence. Above her, the stars looked close, brighter than anywhere she had seen before. This was not normal land. This was the edge of human space where cowboys guarded lonely outposts. The woman reached a small wooden house standing alone in the desert. Its walls were old, its roof almost broken, but light came from one window. She gathered her courage and knocked on the heavy door. Her voice shook as she spoke. "Please, is anyone here? I need work. I can clean, cook, or do any labor. Please give me a chance." Silence answered first, and her heart sank. Then slow footsteps came from inside, the door creaked, and a tall man appeared. He wore a wide hat that shadowed his face. His coat was thick leather, his boots heavy with dust. He looked at her with eyes that were calm but also sharp, like someone who had seen danger many times. The woman bowed her head, afraid he would close the door. "I am hungry," she whispered. "I have nothing left. I only ask for work." The cowboy watched her for a long moment without speaking. The desert was quiet, only the sound of wind moving across the dry land. Finally he spoke, his voice slow and deep. "Only job here is to be my wife." The words shocked her. She stepped back, thinking she had heard wrong. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Her chest felt tight. He repeated, "If you want to stay, if you want safety, that is the only position open." She thought he was mocking her, laughing at her poor state, but his face was serious, his tone steady, no sign of a joke. The woman felt fear rise inside her. She shook her head. "No, I only want woo. Work, please, I cannot." He raised a hand, stopping her words. His eyes looked past her, scanning the dark horizon. "Out here," he said softly, "a woman alone is a target. The aliens watch these lands at night. If they find you without a name, without a family tie, they will take you." Her heart raced. She turned to look at the empty desert, but in the distance she thought she saw a faint glow like moving lights. "What do you mean, aliens?" she whispered, her voice breaking. The cowboy did not answer, only pulled the door wider and said, "Come inside before they notice." She hesitated, torn between fear of him and fear of the unknown desert, but her legs were weak, her stomach empty, and her will almost broken. Slowly she stepped inside. The smell of firewood greeted her. The room was warm and filled with shadows. Weapons hung on the walls, old rifles, strange metallic devices, even maps of the stars. She realized this was no simple ranch house. It was something else, something secret. The cowboy closed the door firmly, bolting it with 3 heavy locks. She stood in silence, her hands shaking. He walked past her and sat at a wooden table, placing his hat down slowly. "You want work," he said, "but here there is no ordinary work. This place is not like the cities. This is the border, and borders are dangerous." The woman swallowed hard. "I will do anything, just not what you said." His eyes narrowed, but he said nothing. Instead, he poured water into a cup and placed it in front of her. Her throat burned with thirst. She drank quickly, and tears touched her eyes from relief. But even with water in her stomach, her fear did not fade. She looked at him again, trying to understand his strange words. "Why would anyone say such a thing?" she asked in a small voice. The cowboy leaned back in his chair, the firelight flickering across his face. "Because marriage here is no romance," he said. "It is survival. The only law the aliens respect is family, and if you do not belong, you are already marked." The woman froze, her hands still holding the cup, her mind racing. The woman sat near the fire, her body still shaking, her eyes on the cowboy who watched the flames in silence. The wooden house felt safe but heavy, as if walls carried secrets too old to speak. Outside, the desert wind howled like a living thing, and every sound made her heart jump. She wanted to ask questions, but her throat felt tight. Finally, she whispered, "Why did you say such words? Why is marriage the only way?" The cowboy turned slowly, his eyes steady. "Because without it, you will not last one night in this land." The woman frowned, confusion mixing with fear. He stood up, walked toward a window, and pulled the curtain slightly. "Look," he said, pointing into the dark. Her eyes followed, and she gasped. Far away, glowing figures moved slowly across the sand, tall and thin, their bodies shining with faint blue light. They are scouts, the cowboy explained. They search for the unclaimed. They believe single humans are easy prey. Her stomach dropped, her hands cold. Prey, she repeated, the word cutting deep. Yes, he answered. To them, you are no more than wandering meat, unless you are tied to a house, a name, a family. Only then the council hesitates. The woman shivered, not knowing if she should believe him or think him mad, but the glowing shadows in the distance were real, their movements slow but steady, as if hunting. She turned away from the window, clutching her arms tightly. Then why stay here? Why live in a place like this? The cowboy's face hardened. Because someone must stand here. Someone must guard what lies beneath this land. His words carried weight, like stone falling into a deep well. What lies beneath? She asked, her voice thin. He did not answer at first. His eyes returned to the fire. This outpost is not just a home, he said at last. It is a shield, a secret fortress dressed as wood and dust. She blinked in disbelief. The walls around her looked old and broken, but his voice told another story. Long ago, humans buried something here, he continued. Something powerful, something the aliens fear, and so they watch, always waiting for us to falter. The woman's skin prickled, the air itself felt heavier. She whispered, "And me, what do I have to do with this?" The cowboy looked at her with eyes sharp as blades. If you stay here, you become part of it, not servant, not worker, but protector, a role that cannot be undone. Her heart raced. The word protector sounded like chains. I am not strong, she said quickly. I am not a fighter. He shook his head. Strength is not only in arms. Sometimes it is in will, sometimes in silence, sometimes in standing when others fall. His words made her chest ache because even in her hunger, she knew she had always stood alone. The fire popped, shadows danced along the walls, and for a moment the house looked less like wood and more like iron. The woman felt trapped, yet something in her heart whispered that leaving would be worse. She wanted to ask more, but outside a loud cry echoed, a sound not human, sharp and cold. Her blood froze. She ran to the window but saw nothing, only desert moving under moonlight. The cowboy placed a hand on his rifle, his jaw set tight. They are closer tonight, closer than I like. He moved to the door, checked the locks again, and listened with his head tilted. The woman hugged herself, fear rising. Why do they want me? She asked. I am nothing. The cowboy's voice was steady. That is why they break the weak first, then the strong. They think humanity will vanish one soul at a time. His words cut her deeply because she knew weakness too well, but another part of her stirred, a hidden anger. She clenched her fists, whispering, I will not be taken. The cowboy's eyes softened for the first time. Good. It is the spirit this place needs. He walked to a wall and pressed against the wood. A hidden panel clicked open, revealing a staircase leading downward. The woman's breath caught. She stepped back. The woman could not sleep that night. Her body rested on a wooden cot in the corner of the house, but her mind raced without pause. The underground chamber haunted her thoughts, the giant sealed door, the strange symbols, and the cowboy's heavy words. She closed her eyes, hoping for rest, but the desert outside refused to let her. The wind rose and fell like a giant's breath, carrying with it strange sounds. At first it seemed like normal desert noise, but then the whispers began. Soft voices, layered one over another, speaking words she could not understand. Her eyes flew open, her breath caught. She sat up quickly. The voices were outside, close, almost circling the wooden walls. Her skin prickled, her heart pounded like a drum. Slowly she stood and moved toward the window, her bare feet cold on the floor. She pulled the curtain slightly and froze. In the distance, glowing shapes moved with unnatural grace, tall figures bending and swaying, their eyes burning faintly blue. The whispers grew louder. No words she knew, but filled with command. It felt like the voices wanted her to open the door, to step out into the cold night. Her body leaned forward without her will, her hand rising slowly. But before she could touch the latch, a hand gripped her shoulder firmly. She gasped and turned. The cowboy stood behind her, his eyes sharp, his jaw tight. Do not listen, he whispered, his voice low but strong. Their words are poison. Once you obey, you are lost. The woman trembled, her throat dry. They are calling me. Why me? The cowboy's grip tightened. Because you are new. Because you are weak. Because they think you will break easier than me. Tears filled her eyes, anger mixing with fear. I am not strong. I cannot fight this. He leaned close, his voice steady like stone. Strength is not given, it is chosen. They only win if you surrender. She shivered. His words burning in her ears. The whispers grew louder for a moment, then faded into the wind, leaving silence heavier than stone. The cowboy pulled the curtain closed, then placed heavy iron bars across the door. He sat down by the fire, checking his rifle, his face unreadable. The woman stood frozen, her body weak but her spirit stirred by something deeper. She sat across from him, her voice shaking. What do they want with humans? He looked at her with dark eyes. They fear us, but also hunger for us. They believe if humanity is broken piece by piece, the last defenses will fall, and then they will rule without challenge. Her chest tightened, her hands clenched. And you stand here alone against them. He nodded once. Alone, until tonight. His words made her heart skip. She lowered her eyes, unsure if he meant her. The fire crackled, shadows danced on the wooden walls. The silence stretched, heavy with meaning. Finally she spoke. Why stay? Why risk your life here? Why not escape to the cities like others? His face hardened. Because the cities live in blind comfort. They forget that war never ends. Someone must keep the frontier. Someone must guard what humanity still holds. The woman looked into his eyes, and for the first time she saw not only a cowboy, but a soldier, a sentinel of something far greater. She wanted to deny it, to run, to pretend this was not her world, but deep inside she knew she had already stepped too far. The whispers outside returned briefly, distant but sharp, a warning in the wind. The cowboy stood quickly, moving to the window, his shoulders tense. The woman followed, peeking from the curtain, and what she saw made her gasp. Closer now, 3 alien figures stood at the edge of the fence, their tall bodies glowing faint blue, their heads turning slowly toward the house. Their eyes burned like fire, and their mouths opened without sound. Yet inside her mind she heard them clearly. Give her to us, she is not yours, she is ours. Her knees weakened, she grabbed the wooden frame for balance. The cowboy raised his rifle, his voice cold. The night refused to rest. The desert outside groaned like a living beast. The woman sat near the fire with eyes wide open, her body trembling with every echo. The cowboy cleaned his rifle slowly, his movements calm but his jaw tight with hidden tension. Neither spoke for a long time. Silence was heavy, broken only by the crack of burning wood. Finally the woman whispered, "They will come again, won't they?" The cowboy nodded once, his eyes fixed on the flames. "They will not stop, not until they take you or until they are broken." Her throat tightened, she hugged herself. "Then I should go, if I leave. They will follow me, not you." The cowboy turned to her sharply, his voice like iron. "If you walk into the desert, they will consume you before dawn, and if you fall, they will use your body as proof that humans are weak. You will not only die, you will help them win." The words hit her like a hammer. She lowered her head, her tears burned her eyes. She hated the idea of being a burden, hated feeling powerless. Her voice broke. "So what do you want from me? Why call me wife?" The cowboy placed the rifle aside, his gaze hard but honest. "Because only in that bond are you untouchable to them. Only then do they hesitate. Only then do they step back." The woman's chest rose and fell quickly, his words twisted inside her like chains. She wanted to reject it, to scream that she was not born to belong to anyone, but in her memory the glowing eyes of the aliens returned, their whispers clawing at her mind, the terror of being claimed as prey. She trembled. "This is not marriage, this is prison." His eyes softened slightly. "It is survival, and survival is the first law of humans." A sudden knock thundered against the door. The woman jumped with a cry. The cowboy rose in one motion, rifle in hand, his boots striking the floor hard. The knock came again, louder, shaking the wooden walls. The woman clutched the chair, fear flooding her veins. "They're here." The cowboy's voice was steady. "Stay behind me." He stepped to the door, unlocked the first bolt, then paused, his ear pressed against the wood. A voice drifted through, cold and layered. "Not one, but many. Give her to us. She is not yours. She is ours by right." The woman's blood froze. The voice pressed into her mind like fire. The cowboy answered with thunder. "She is under my name. She is mine, and you will not touch her." The air outside erupted with a hiss, like steam bursting from the earth. The woman covered her ears. The voices shrieked in her skull, demanding, pulling. The cowboy opened the door a crack and aimed his rifle into the night. Outside stood 3 alien scouts, tall and thin, glowing faintly with blue fire, their long arms twitching like blades, their eyes locked on the woman behind him, and though their mouths did not move, she heard them clearly. "You do not belong. You cannot hide behind his word forever." Her knees weakened, but the cowboy stepped fully into the doorway, blocking their sight. His rifle glowed as old Terran runes lit along its barrel. He aimed steady, his voice like stone. "Step forward, and I will remind you what humans keep buried beneath this soil." The aliens hissed, their bodies bending backward, the blue light in their chests burning brighter. One raised a hand, pointing at the woman. "We will return, and she will choose us." With that, the figures melted back into the desert shadows, their glowing bodies fading until nothing remained but silence. The cowboy shut the door hard, bolting it again, his shoulders tense but his face calm. The woman collapsed into the chair, her hands shaking, her breath shallow. "Why do they want me so much?" He sat across from her, placing the rifle down. "Because you are human. Because every human carries a spark they cannot destroy. They want to snuff it out, one soul at a time." She shook her head, tears falling. "Then what am I supposed to do? Live forever as your prisoner?" His voice softened. "Not prisoner, partner. Only then will they see you as more than prey." The word partner echoed in her ears, both comfort and chain. She closed her eyes, the memory of whispers still scratching at her mind. Every part of her wanted to escape, but she knew escape was death. Every part of her wanted freedom. But freedom in this land was a lie. Slowly she lifted her head, her voice unsteady but firm. "If I accept this, if I take your name, then I am no longer weak. You must teach me to fight. You must make me more than prey." The cowboy's eyes glowed with firelight. He gave a single nod. "Then your real test begins." A long silence filled the house. The woman felt the weight of her decision pressed down, but also a strange strength stirring in her chest. The whispers outside faded for the night, but in the distance the desert glowed faintly, like embers waiting to burn. The cowboy looked at her with steady eyes. "They will return with more, and soon this place will become a battlefield. You must be ready." She swallowed hard, her fear mixing with fire. "Then I will be ready." Her voice trembled, but the words carried a strength she had never felt before. And as the night stretched on, both knew that her fate had changed forever. The morning came, but it did not bring peace. The desert stretched wide and silent, yet the woman felt eyes on her with every breath. She stood outside the house for the first time since the night, the air dry and heavy, the horizon sharp and endless. The cowboy was by the fence, fixing a broken post, his rifle strapped across his back as if it was part of him. She watched him work, wondering how long he had lived like this, hunted by whispers, stalked by glowing shadows. The thought sent shivers down her spine, but her chest clear. Ride something new, a stubborn fire that refused to go out. The cowboy glanced at her, his eyes calm but alert. "You should not stand in the open for long. They mark faces, and once marked, they never forget." Her stomach knotted. She stepped back closer to the house, but she lifted her chin. "If they want me, let them see I will not run." His lips pressed into the smallest of smiles, but his voice stayed steady. "Bravery is good, but foolishness will bury you faster than fear." She said nothing, but in her heart she vowed not to break again. The day passed in silence, broken only by the sound of hammer on wood, wind on dust, and the occasional cry of strange birds overhead. But as the sun began to sink, the desert shifted, shadows stretched long, and the ground itself seemed to grow colder. The woman stood by the window, her breath short. They are coming, aren't they? The cowboy placed his hat on his head, his rifle in his hands. Yes, they are. The first glow appeared at the horizon, faint like stars, but moving closer with every breath. Then another, and another, until the desert was dotted with blue lights. Dozens of figures walking in silence, their tall bodies swaying like reeds in the wind. Her hands trembled. She gripped the edge of the window hard. There are too many. The cowboy did not flinch. Numbers do not matter. Resolve does. They know what lies beneath this land. They come to test if we are still worthy of guarding it. The figures stopped just beyond the fence, the desert alive with their glow. The woman could not hear their feet, but their whispers filled her head like a storm. Give her to us. She does not belong. One human life means nothing. Surrender her and live. She cried out, clutching her ears. Stop! Stop! The cowboy stepped into the doorway, his rifle aimed, his voice thundering across the sand. She is mine, and under my protection. And step back or be broken. The whispers shifted, darker now, heavier, pressing against her chest. One of the aliens stepped forward, taller than the rest, its body glowing brighter, its voice inside her head sharp and cruel. You think a word binds her, but we see her fear. We taste her weakness. She will come with us. Her knees shook, but she forced herself to step beside the cowboy, her breath uneven. No, she whispered, then louder. No, I will not go with you. The alien hissed, its blue fire pulsing. You are nothing, a stray, a shadow. You will break. The woman's heart thundered, her fear screamed, but the fire inside her pushed back. I will not break. The cowboy's voice cut through the night like a blade. You hear her. She has chosen. Now leave before you are taught again why humans are not prey. The tall alien tilted its head, its glowing eyes narrowing, then raised a hand. The air trembled, the ground shook, the fence cracked and fell as if crushed by invisible weight. The woman stumbled, but the cowboy grabbed her arm, pulling her behind him. He raised the rifle, the runes along its barrel blazing with sudden light, and fired. A thunderous crack tore across the desert. A flash of fire shot into the night, striking the ground before the alien leader. The sand exploded. Flames roared high. The alien stumbled back, hissing in rage. The others moved forward, dozens of glowing shapes advancing toward the house. The woman's breath came in gasps. We cannot fight them all. The cowboy's jaw tightened, his eyes steady. We do not need to fight them all, only show them that the old fire has not died. He fired again, the rifle roaring. Another alien figure collapsed in the sand, its body flickering before melting into ash. The rest halted, their whispers turned to shrieks inside her skull, a mix of fury and fear. The cowboy's voice thundered. You want war? Then remember war. You want power? Then remember hunters. The woman gripped his arm, her voice trembling. They will return, stronger. He nodded slowly, his gaze fixed on the glowing figures retreating into the desert. Yes, they will, and when they do, we must be ready to awaken what sleeps beneath us. The night grew quiet again, but the silence was heavier than before. The woman looked at him, her chest heaving, her mind filled with questions she dared not ask. What is beneath us? She whispered, her voice low. The cowboy met her eyes, the firelight flickering across his sharp face. The last memory of human defiance. The reason they fear us, the reason they come. Her skin prickled. The air around her felt thick with hidden power. She realized then that her life had already been bound to this place, to this man, to this secret. The whispers had failed tonight. The shadows had been pushed back, but she knew it was only the beginning. Her heart still raced, but inside it burned a new truth. She was no longer just a poor woman begging for work. She was now part of a war written in silence, carried by whispers, fought in shadows, and the storm waiting beyond the desert would soon demand more than words, more than defiance. It would demand everything. The woman lay awake long after the aliens had vanished, her heart heavy with fear but also burning with restless fire. The cowboy sat by the table, his rifle across his lap, his eyes fixed on the window. Though the desert was now calm, neither spoke, but both felt the same truth. The next attack would not be scouts, it would be war. The woman finally whispered, her voice trembling but steady. You keep saying they fear what lies beneath. What is it? What are you guarding? The cowboy looked at her for a long moment, his silence like stone. Then he stood, his boots echoing on the floor. "Come," he said simply, lifting a lantern. She hesitated but followed, her steps unsteady, her chest tight with dread. He pressed against the wall again. The hidden panel clicked. The staircase opened into darkness. They descended together, each step colder than. The lantern light revealed walls covered in strange carvings, human emblems etched deep, words of warning and pride. The woman ran her fingers across them, the letters rough beneath her skin. "Who built this?" she whispered. The cowboy's voice was low, almost reverent. "Humans, long before the aliens thought us broken, when we were cornered and nearly extinct, they forged something to remind the stars who we were." Her breath quickened, her fear mixing with awe. "A weapon." He nodded slowly. "A warship, not just any, but one built with the last strength of Earth's scattered colonies, hidden here beneath the sands, sleeping until it is needed again." Her knees weakened. She leaned against the wall, her mind spinning. The cowboy raised the lantern higher, and the chamber widened, revealing a massive sealed door of black iron, taller than any building she had seen. Symbols glowed faintly across its surface, old Terran runes burning with quiet fire. The woman's eyes widened, her breath caught. "It's real," she whispered. The cowboy's gaze hardened. "This is the heart of the outpost. This is why they watch, why they whisper, why they try to break us piece by piece, because if this awakens, the stars will remember humanity's wrath." Her skin prickled. She stepped closer, but the door radiated power, heavy and alive. She whispered, "Then why not open it? Why not use it now?" His voice was steady. "Because it is not ready, and neither are you. The ship does not answer to machines alone. It answers to blood, to bonds, to will. Only when its guardians are united does it rise." Her chest tightened. She turned to him. "Guardians? You mean families like yours, bound by name?" He nodded. "Yes, the bond of wife and husband is more than survival. It is the key to awakening what sleeps here. Alone I cannot do it, but with you, the door may open." Her heart pounded, her throat dry. The weight of his words struck harder than the whispers. "I am no warrior," she said, her voice breaking. "I am poor, weak. I begged for work. I cannot carry this." The cowboy stepped closer, his eyes burning. "You are human, and that is enough. They want you because they see weakness, but I see the fire that will break them. You stood against their whispers. You stood beside me at the gate. Do not say you are nothing, because even nothing becomes a storm when it refuses to bow." Her eyes filled with tears, her spirit torn between terror and defiance. She turned back to the great iron door, its faint glow reflecting in her eyes, and for the first time she felt it, a pulse, a heartbeat that was not hers. The chamber grew colder, the lantern flickered, and in the silence she heard it, a deep thrum from beyond the sealed door. Her breath caught. She whispered, "It's alive." The cowboy gave a single nod. "It waits, it listens, it knows you are here." She stepped back quickly, her legs trembling. "No, I cannot. This is too much." His hand steadied her shoulder, his voice firm. "It chose you the moment you knocked on my door. Fate has already bound you. You cannot run now." Tears ran down her cheeks, but in her chest the fire grew stronger. She wiped her face roughly and met his eyes, her voice shaking but sharp. "Then teach me, if this ship needs me, if this land needs me, I will not be prey, I will not be weak, I will learn." The cowboy's face finally softened, a rare flicker of pride in his eyes. "Then the legacy of this outpost is safe, and when the time comes, we will awaken the storm together." The great iron door pulsed once more, as if agreeing, the sound echoing through the chamber like the beat of a giant heart. The woman felt her fear melt into something greater, not courage alone, but destiny. She realized her life was no longer hers to hold. She was now part of something vast, ancient, and dangerous. The whispers outside the desert meant nothing compared to the roar that slept beneath her feet. And in the silence of the underground chamber, she knew one. The desert was silent at dawn, But it was not the silence of peace, it was the silence of waiting. The woman stood outside the house, her eyes fixed on the endless horizon, the sky painted in fire and ash. Her body trembled with fear, yet her spirit felt different now, stronger, sharper, as if the great iron door beneath the ground had passed part of its power into her. The cowboy stood beside her, rifle on his back, hat low on his brow, his face unreadable but his presence steady as stone. "They will come today," he said simply, his voice calm as if speaking of rain. The woman's throat tightened. "How do you know?" His eyes stayed on the horizon. "Because last night they felt the ship stir. They felt your will touch its heart. And now they will bring more, not scouts, not whispers, but warships." Her chest rose and fell quickly, her breath shallow. "Then we cannot stand against them alone." He finally looked at her, his gaze sharp but steady. "No, but we can awaken what waits beneath us, if you are ready." The ground trembled faintly, the woman's stomach clenched. She heard a sound like thunder rolling across the desert. Then she saw it, black dots in the sky, growing larger, alien crafts gliding with unnatural silence, their glowing bodies pulsing with blue fire. Her knees weakened, she gripped the wooden fence. "So many," she whispered. The cowboy's jaw tightened. "Do not count them. Remember who we are. Remember what we guard." The crafts descended, hovering above the desert, their shadows swallowing the land. The air grew heavy, every breath thick with pressure. Then the voices came, not whispers now, but roars, filling her skull with command. "Surrender, surrender the woman, surrender the outpost, surrender the legacy." She cried out, clutching her head, but she forced her voice through the pain. "No, I will not surrender." The cowboy placed a steady hand on her shoulder, his voice thundered into the storm. "This is humanity's land and you will not take it." The alien crafts opened, spilling tall glowing figures across the sand, an army moving as one, their eyes burning blue. The woman's breath quickened, her fear threatened to break her, but she remembered the heartbeat she had felt beneath the ground. She stood taller, lifting her chin, her voice shaking but fierce. "You cannot have me. I belong here." The aliens hissed in rage, their voices slicing into her mind. "You are weak, you are nothing, you will break." Her fists clenched, her eyes burning. "Then break me if you can." The cowboy raised his rifle, firing. Thunder split the air. One alien fell, then another, but more advanced, endless. The fence shattered. The house trembled. The desert became alive with blue fire. The woman stumbled, the heat and screams clawing at her chest. The cowboy shouted, "Now, it is time. The ship waits for you." He pulled her toward the hidden stairs, the house shaking above them as alien fire rained down. They rushed into the underground chamber, the iron door glowing faintly as if it too felt the storm. The woman placed her hands on its surface, her heart racing, her voice trembling. "I don't know how." The cowboy stood behind her, his hand firm on her back. "Do not think, only will, only claim what is yours." Her tears streamed, her body weak, but her spirit roared. She pressed harder, her voice breaking. "If you hear me, if you remember us, then rise, rise for humanity." The chamber shook, the iron door pulsed with fire, symbols blazing brighter than suns. A deep thrum filled the air, shaking the ground, the walls, their very bones. The cowboy's eyes widened, his voice a whisper. "It wakes." The door split, iron groaning like a beast, dust and light bursting outward. Beyond it, shadows moved, colossal shapes shifting, ancient engine, as roaring back to life. The woman staggered back, the light burning her eyes, but her heart swelled with power. A warship, vast and terrible, rested in the chamber, its hull black as night, etched with Terran marks, its core glowing with fire older than memory. The alien roars above grew louder, their fear now mixing with fury. The cowboy smiled grimly. "Now, they will remember." The ship's voice echoed, not sound but thought, deep and powerful. Guardian recognized, bond confirmed, humanity endures. The woman gasped, her chest filling with energy. The warship spoke to her, to them, as if she had always been part of it. Her fear melted into strength, her weakness burned into ash. She stood tall, her voice steady. "Then let us fight." The engines roared, the ground above split open, sand and stone blasting into the air. The warship rose from the desert like a buried titan, its massive guns glowing with ancient fire. Above, the alien army froze, their voices shrieking in disbelief. Impossible. Humans were broken. This cannot be. The cowboy stepped beside her, his rifle lowered now, his eyes burning with pride. They thought us myths, but now they will see. The warship's cannons charged, the desert lit like day. The woman stood at its heart, her voice echoing through steel and flame. This is our land. This is our fight. Humanity will never bow. The first volley fired, fire and thunder splitting the sky. Alien crafts erupted into flames, their blue light shattered by Terran wrath. The desert roared with war, and at its center stood a poor woman who had once begged for work, now the chosen guardian of humanity's storm. Her life was no longer her own. It belonged to the rising fire, the legacy of her kind. And as the warship soared higher, its cannons blazing, the universe itself seemed to tremble. The rising storm had begun, and humanity would never again be forgotten.